Third chapter of Hilchos Teshuvah. Okay, now if you remember the opening line of Hilchos Teshuvah, and this now you really see how deliberately the Rambam picked this up, was Kol ha-mitzvos sheba Torah, all the mitzvahs of the Torah, and we were focused at that point on mitzvahs as objective entities, right? And we spoke about the significance of that. But here we bring Kol echad ve'echad mibnei ha'adam, every single human being. So now we already in the second chapter shifted the focus away from the objective existence of what good and evil do in the world when we've done acts, the metaphysical reality of these things, and we're now into the personal. But we're going to talk about the definition of human beings now. So let's listen carefully. This is a very famous Rambam, but amongst many Rambams, it's easy to subtly and importantly misunderstand. Yesh lo zechuyos v'avonos. Each person has positive and negative. Right now, if you ask, lots of children have heard the story that on Rosh Hashana we get weighed up. You know, we're going to talk about the weighing up process over here. All our good deeds against our bad deeds. We'll see the Rambam has a very importantly, subtly different view on all this. Misha zechuyosov yiseres alavonosov tzadik. Anyone whose good outweighs the bad, that's how I'm translating it for now, is called a tzadik. They're called a righteous person. Misha avonosov yiseres alavonosov rasha. Anyone whose bad outweighs the good is called a rasha. Usually translated as a bad person or something. Mechzel and mechzel, if they're 50-50, they're half and half. Benoni, they are called a benoni, someone in between, an intermediate. Now this immediately raises issues. So you're saying somebody who's 51% good is the same in a certain sense as somebody 99% good. And someone's 51% bad, I mean there's a 2% difference, or can you be at 50 point whatever, 50 or 49 point, and it's, no, and exactly the person who's 50-50 is the benoni, is in between. Then there's not a lot of benonim in the world, right, according to this. V'chein ha-medina, same with a province. If the positive of the citizens and inhabitants of this province outweighs the negative, that's tzaddik, as it's called a righteous area. The other way around, we have an same otherwise it's called a bad place. Same with the world. Now comes the apparent shock, first shock of this chapter. And the Rambam's drawing all these from the Gemaras, although the way he's structuring them and working out, he's clearly got a fantastic perspective, which we'll try and uncover soon. But let's just go through it and see the potential problems. Adam shavonosav merubin al zechuyosov, a person whose bad outweighs the good, miyad hu meis berishai, immediately dies in their wickedness. Shenema al roiv avenach, he's got a proof from, it actually happens to be this is the end of a few psukim. There's a few psukim in Tanakh that have this phrase, where it talks about people being punished, al roiv avenach, which we normally translate as the magnitude of their sin. But the word rov also means majority, because they're majority sinful. So the Rambam says, you see, people are dying because they're majority sinful. So what's the obvious question? There's plenty of evil people in the world who aren't dropping dead. If you just, now we'll have to carry on in the Rambam, because this is when it, we fall off our chair at this moment. But let's see what he's doing. Similarly with the province whose negative outweighs, it becomes the majority. Miyad hiyavedes is immediately destroyed. Shanam, as it says in the pasuk, the verse that talks about Sodom being destroyed, Zaka Sodom v'Amorah ki Rabba, the cry of Sodom and Amorah because it's so great. And again, the word Rabba means majority. It's like it's majority bad. Boom. Same with the whole world. If the negative overweighs the positive, miyad hey nishchasin, immediately destroyed. Shenem avayar Hashem ki rabba rasa adam. This is right before the flood comes. So we have the pasuk says that again, we normally translate it, there was so much bad in the world. Rambam says the word rabba means there's majority bad in the world. So that means that from then till now, there's never been a majority bad in the world, according to this Rambam. Not only that, right now there's no city in the world that's majority bad. And there's not that many human beings who are majority bad. Really?
Not just not that many, none.
Well, not none, because there are people dying. It could be some of them. He could have said, according to the Rambam, some.
In this moment right now.
In this moment right now.
Single Russia.
Right.
Maybe in another second there will be one, and then there will
Yeah,
be the
potentially. Yeah. Well, there might be.
Right now, there's not one.
Well, it could be right now, this second, somewhere in the world that Rosh has died. But yes, but you're right. I mean, there's certainly lots of them around in the world who, by any measure, of anyone's imagination, which should be called a rasha, and they're happily walking the world. I mean, Adolf Hitler lived many, many days. Surely he was called a rasha. According to Rambam, he should immediately have. What's that?
Maybe we're misunderstanding what a rasha.
We must be misunderstanding what's going on in the Rambam, right? We must be misunderstanding. Or what a rasha is, or what majority bad is. It's something we have to be misunderstanding something, right? So let's keep going. See if some answers start to lie further ahead, and let's go a bit further. And then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll share. Well, actually, if we reread this slightly more accurately, it will turn out that we might have the answer. But the Rambam's going to give us some clues already. First of all, he says, "Shikul ze'ein lefi minyan hazechuyos ha'avonos." First thing up, it's not a numbers game. So that the Rambam's cleared up for us straight away. Right? We're not weighing up the number of good things against bad things, elo lefi godlon, but rather their quality, how great they are. There might be some positive that outweighs a lot of negative. Now that still doesn't really answer our question though, because we'd still expect Adolf Hitler to have died long before he did. Right? Says in Melachim, in the Book of Kings, that he'd found something good and therefore could mitigate against the king who otherwise had bad. And conversely, you have one negative can outweigh lots of positives. Ecclesiastes. It can only be weighed. Only God, who has true knowledge, can actually weigh all this up. He knows how you weigh these things up. Now, we still haven't resolved all our problems here, but at least it's not as simplistic as a numbers game. If it was a numbers game, we would never have such a thing as a benoni. Right? We'll come to this in a minute as an intermediate person, because nobody's numbers are going to be equal. Okay, but at least we've learned it's not a numbers game. That's the first important clue. And we may not understand positives and negatives. That's another important clue. There's more to come. Anyone who regrets mitzvahs they've done and is upset about or doesn't want the positives, and says in their heart, what, this was not worth it. I wish I'd never done that mitzvah. Chas v'shalom. In that moment he loses all of them. Interesting. Because the word literally means loses all of them. And there's no positive attached to him in the world. The righteousness of the righteous one doesn't help them or save them on the day they turn evil. That's only if they really genuinely regret what they did. Not a person says, look, I'm happy I did the mitzvahs, but from now on I don't want to do them. Then they still get them, they're still kind of counted. But the person who genuinely says, I wish I'd never given stock or any charity in my life, chas shalom, I wish I'd never kept any mitzvahs. If they said that, then they've all evaporated. Now comes the line that we're all, or many people are familiar with. Just like we weigh these negatives of the person against their positives at the time they die. Oh, let's just pause it there before we get to the line we know. This was talking about when we die? I thought this was talking about any moment in life. So what's going on over here? Okay, that we need to think about. Kach b'chol shana v'shana. So every single year, sheiklin avonos kol echad ve'echad m'bayolam. Every human being is weighed up. You weigh up their negative im zechuyosef against their positive. B'yom tov shel Rosh Hashana, on the day of Rosh Hashana, the happy day, the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashana. Mi shenimtza tzadik. Whoever is found to be a tzadik, nechtam l'chaim. And again, he's defined tzadik means majority good, sealed for life. Mi shenimtza rasha. Whoever's found out to be a rasha, majority bad, nechtam lemisa, they're sealed for death. V'ha benoni, and the intermediate, which means equal. And again, thankfully we've already learned it's not a numbers, because if it was a numbers game, there'd never be beinonim. Toilin is just not statistically possible, because every 3 seconds roughly is a unit of time in Torah, and there's 6 constant mitzvahs. So the amount of possible mitzvahs in any given year is just so gigantic that the statistical odds of being able to get equal parity is 0, effectively. But you can, because we already said it's not quantitative, so it might be something else we have to get to. So the benoni, toilin loy ad yom kippurim. suspended until Yom Kippur. Im asa teshuvah, if they do teshuvah nechtam l'chaim, they're sealed for life. V'im lav nechtam l'misa, they're sealed for death. So again, we need to understand what this sealing for life, sealing for death thing is. What was the earlier life and death? Is the only moment you die? If it's the moment you after you die, then what's it even mean? So we've got a lot of confusion going on over here. But let's ask another question, because this is very important. Is if the benoni is really 50-50, somehow suspended, then why do you need to do Teshuvah? Just do lots of mitzvos. There was quite a lot of the commentaries asked this question. Just do other mitzvahs.
Didn't we say it's not quantitative?
So very good. So you hit a very deep point in the fact there's not quantitatives. So then what is it, right? Excellent, though. Very, very good. It seems that the quantitative increase in mitzvahs doesn't change. It's a very important clue. Now, you can be at a position or a point here where adding mitzvahs will not shift the balance between what we just called positive and negative. You have to do Teshuvah. How does Teshuvah do it then? Surely that's just undoing bad stuff, right? Good. So let's keep going. By the way, this is the third time Yom Kippur has appeared. It's appeared in each chapter of Teshuvah in a slightly different way. Chapter 1, it appeared as the time to delete the metaphysical existence of any negative energy that we've unleashed, if you like, on ourselves or on the world. Chapter 2, it appears as the time when Hashem is willing to forgive us. And chapter 3 appears as the time when, if we've done Teshuvah, we can be sealed for life. Okay? Even though we keep, why do you keep the shofar? Says the Rambam, because the Torah says so. At the end of the day, like any mitzvah, you do it. If the creator of the universe tells you, you do it. Ramaz yeshbay, there is still a message we can get from it, literally a hint, right, from it. Kaloima, as if to say, uru yesheni v'shenaschem. Wake up, those of you who sleep from your slumber. V'akitzu, and arouse yourselves near domim matar demaschem, those who are just sleepwalking through life, basically. V'chapsu b'maasechem, really investigate your actions. V'chizu b'teshuvah, and return to teshuvah. V'zichru barachem, and remember your creator. Eila sheikhem esaemes b'havli hazman. These are they who forget the truth in the frivolity or meaninglessness of time. The Rambam always uses that expression, by the way, when he talks about people who are losing track of life. He uses the hevle hazman, the frivolity or emptiness of time, right, as opposed to real truth, which is timeless. Yeah.
So we just said that one of the clues that he just gave is if it's a thing, then why do Teshuvah? Just do a bunch of mitzvos. No, because it's quantitative.
Yes.
So at Rosh Hashana, you can't influence the balance of the scale of what you've done the whole year, right?
You can. He said the Rambam saying you can. Yeah.
Only through Teshuvah.
Yeah, only through Teshuvah. Yeah.
So then my sins don't count either?
Good, brilliant question. Brilliant question. Do you hear the question? All the way through, we're talking about majorities. So if a person gets on the side of good, however they get there, whether it's a numbers game, whether it's something else, the sins don't exist. You only judge on aggregate, some kind of average. Right? We know, right, that Hashem doesn't hold back the reward or punishment for anything. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu, whose scale, no doubt, was pretty good every single day of his life, so at least minimally from when he met Hashem until the day he died, he's punished for one little thing he does wrong. Achav, who is pretty bad, gets rewarded for the little things he does right. His wife, Izevah, in many ways even worse. Her hands get rewarded. There's a little reward for the little good she does. Every good act gets rewarded, every bad act gets punished. Maybe some is in this world instead of the next world, but what's this idea that we have some kind of aggregate? Right? That's a great question. Good. But these questions are digging us closer to now what's really going on. Right? Because, like I say, whenever you've got very big problems with the text, it means probably, certainly in Torah, it means we haven't yet understood, or we're missing a little key, that Rambam's writing all this, very clear that we understand exactly what he means. We've superimposed something on it, perhaps, or some assumptions on it that are creating the problem. Okay, a really good answer doesn't answer the question. It shows you, if you just relook at it slightly, you'll see what he was writing makes sense. It's just we were superimposing something onto it that created the problem in the first place. But let's keep going. Says the Rambam, so he keeps going. These people who kind of shogin literally means they accidentally slumber through life. That can be because I just keep living the life I was brought up in, keep following the culture and the civilization I'm in, the popular social media trends. My attitudes are really created by other people anyway. I just think they're my own, etc. Hevel v'rik in emptiness and uselessness, asher lo yoel v'lo yatzil, doesn't really get any person anywhere. Habitu lenafshosechem, look into your soul. V'hitivu et darchechem, change your ways, u'ma'alelechem, and your thinking processes. V'yazev kol echad mekem darkei hara, every one of you let go of any negative pathways, u'machshavta asher lo tova, and any thoughts that are not good. Now, listen to the words he used. What was the word he used for bad and good in this sentence? I'll read it again. Tov and ra, good and bad. Notice when he said we weigh up, what did he say we're weighing up what against what? Mitzvos and averos. He didn't use the word mitzvos and averos. He didn't use the word good and bad. This is a little point which is so easy to miss. The Rambam said something else. He said zechuyos keneged avonos. Zechus against avon. Now what's a zechus? Is a zechus good? Is a zechus mitzvos? It seems to be related to it. But what does the word zechus literally mean?
Merit.
A merit, right? It's something you earn. It's not doing good, it's the result of good. Zechus is the result, right? The word avon is one of the possible words that can also mean a negative act, although the Rambam usually will use aveira or chet, or they're the more common words, but it can also mean the result of bad. It's from the word muvas, it's corruption. So we're weighing up your zechus, the merit, or if you like, the word zechus is based on the word zakos, the purification that's happened, against the level of corruption that's happened. This is not weighing what we've done. This is weighing who we've become as a result of what we've done. And that's a whole different story. Because you see, human beings can be torn their whole life. There can be a lot of things that create a zechus of merit. Your merit might not just be good you do, by the way. The merit might be the future generations can have some benefit because you're in this world. And merit might be you've got a role to play in the world, even if you're choosing bad pathways. So there's lots of things that can keep states and provinces and individuals alive when you're weighing up merit factors against, other than just the good they've done. So that's the first important insight, because somebody might have a merit that they're just serving God's purpose, even if they themselves have no relationship with God whatsoever. That's a little insight. But much more than that, what we're getting to is the idea of the world being suspended 50-50 is quite natural. The world as a collective is torn between good and bad. It has not decisively landed on either side. We're not weighing momentary flickerings of numbers of good and bad acts being done. We're weighing what the world is in essence. We're weighing what each province is in essence, we're weighing what each person is in essence, yeah.
Why we say that our one mitzvah, our one avera has the ability to...
Yes, our one mitzvah, one avera has the ability to turn the world, but the Rambam's saying actually not if we live in the same paradigms. Notice what the Rambam put in this chapter, which he hadn't mentioned in previous chapters. He put the idea of a person who regrets what they did in the good, regrets the good, and they lose everything. The good will be rewarded. That's not the point. Of course, maybe they'll be rewarded in this world instead of the next world. But if a person says, who I am in the essence of my being is not the good things I've done, that's a person who's lost all their good. And conversely, a person who does Teshuvah says, who I am in the essence of my being is not the person who's done those bad things. They've just shifted the scale of who they are. The one mitzvah changes the world if it comes with a shift in who we are, i.e. it comes with Teshuvah. So yes, there's going to be a judgment on all that we've done. But there's the key thing that the Rambam's talking about here is that most human beings lie somewhere in the story of good and bad. All cities and provinces in the world that aren't destroyed, which lie somewhere undetermined, in an undetermined state. The determination comes at the end of their life, right? If a person dies, then now there has to be a determination. Which are you? Until the moment they die, there might not have to be a determination. They're still not fully decided. Now, we still have the problem. There are some people who are so blatantly evil who still make it through life. Surely at some point they became so determinately evil. Okay, but other than that, we're now able to understand everything else. Most places in the world, most nations in the world, most people are not determinately decided what they are, even through the whole life, generally speaking. On Rosh Hashana, it's an opportunity to be written into the book of life and death. Now, what does that mean? The Rambam doesn't define it here, but he does seem to define it in later chapters. And it seems later on we discover that real life is going to be the world to come. So the book of life, and Tosfos says this in the Gemara in Rosh Hashana, the book of life is actually the book of a place in the world to come. The way Tosfos learns it could be that every Rosh Hashana, Hashem decides whether this year makes it to the world to come or not, and unless we do Teshuvah or things later on in life, that stays fixed. So every year there's kind of a judgment on our basic place of that in the world to come. Others learn differently. You can be written in the book of, let's make it easier, the book of life or death, even if you're physically alive or dead. In other words, the book of life is the type of life that will be written about when the book of history is written. The book of history will be called the book of life. The world to come will be called the book of life. And our life will have a place in it. Each year what's judged is whether our role, whether we're going to be given a starring role in the next year. A role which we may not even realize the impact of our actions. A role where, let's say, our mitzvahs are going to have a natural channel of impact that we won't see. We do good and spiritually things happen, or causally, cause and effect, things ripple across the world in ways we can't imagine. Person to person, someone gets inspired by what we do and inspires somebody else. We are going to be given a certain power, to be written in the book of life. Now what we do with that opportunity, that's up to us. But our spiritual potential, the types of opportunities, the types of magnification of impact, that's called the book of life. The book of death could be somebody who walks planet Earth and is going to have no opportunity to add much good to the world at all. They're either going to live a completely meaningless year, where the hope is by next year they've done more Teshuvah and they can be written in the book of life for next year, or even worse than that, they're now being written into pure evil. That's also a book of death. A person can walk planet Earth as a dead human being, or even an anti-life human being. A killer is often a dead man in that sense, and they're in this world now opposing life. They're going to be written as one of the villains in the book of the final book of history. So Rosh Hashanah is determining where we stand in the equilibrium and the balance of where history is. And that's Rosh Hashanah was asking the question, who are you? The shofar is trying to call to us to get on the side of I'm living life for your sake, God, not for my sake. By Yom Kippur, if we want to be determinately written into the book of life, because we may well come out of Rosh Hashanah torn and balanced people, Teshuvah is the thing that now shifts who we are. So we've moved in the different chapters. In chapter 1, the goal of Teshuvah and the confession, everything was to delete the existence of the bad stuff. In chapter 2, it was to change our ways, and we began to get the sense that it's more than just, oh, I've changed a behavior. It opens me up to being a greater person. In chapter 3, we see it starts to open the definition of who I am. There's a deep Teshuvah, a Teshuvah not on what I've done, but a Teshuvah on what I've become. And the Teshuvah process that leads between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is the type of changes that are going to put me on another pathway, which means a big part of what we're trying to achieve for Yom Kippur is not only saying sorry about things we've done in the past that we've changed, but also thinking about the pathway we want to be on and the practical changes we want to make. Rosh Hashanah, we wanted to get to the deep core essence. I want to be for you, God. Now to Yom Kippur, we're going to think of the specific pathways we're going to change as part of this renewed self. That's really what's going on over here. Let's keep going. Lefichach, and now because of all of this, sorry, I've missed, fine. A person should see themselves, and this is now coming to your point, all year round, right, as if they're really balanced. Half meritorious, half chayav literally means obligated to punishment. Half set up for reward, half set up for punishment. We should see the whole world hanging in the balance. And now we come to this issue. You could sin one sin. Maybe you tilt the whole world and the whole of history to the negative. And you could destroy everything. One mitzvah. The point is, we should see actions and not just actions. Actions can change everything. And action comes with the right little level to it. The simple way of understanding this is, it's literally all in the balance, one thing could tilt it. And I don't think Rambam would run away from that. I think that is true. At least we should see the world that way. But also when we see the world that way, it means we see the infinite significance in every choice we ever make. History stands in this choice. What happens if I knew that whether I smile at somebody walking in today or I scowl at them will determine how quickly Mashiach comes? Well, it might do. It might well do. What happens if that smile makes 3 or 4 people really happy and I say a nice good morning to them? And they're in a better mood and they behave nicely to people. Maybe they say the same thing to other people. And now, after 3 or 4 generations of this, right, within a 20-minute period, there's 100 people having a better day. And within a 3-hour period, there's 30 or 40,000 people having a better day. And a few weeks later, billions of people have somehow been touched by that. And who knows if somebody somewhere, their marriage was repaired because they decided that moment not to walk away, but to make it try one more time. And who knows if a child won't be born into that happy home. We just have no clue what the consequences are going to be in history. Your one action can tilt the whole story, especially if you want to be in the book of life. I mean, that's really what the Rambam is saying. That's how we should look at everything. Don't think I don't matter, because who am I? I'm not the biggest Talmud Chacham, my davening is not the greatest davening, I can't give the best charity, and does this action matter? Never think that. Anything could impact everything, yeah.
If someone is reading into the book of death, they have to wait till next Rosh Hashana?
Yes, so it depends how you learn the book of life death. I gave you 2 different ways to learn it. There's other sources as well speak about it differently. But if a person's not written the book of life, let's say, then their next chance is next Rosh Hashana. Yeah, it's big time, Rosh Hashana, Yom Kippur. But that's why we have the opportunity of Yom Kippur. Even if we didn't decisively decide it, the work we do between Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur, even if it's an imperfect Teshuvah, right, it can be enough to tilt it, enough to, And that's why we have to really do our best these days for the things we can't fully change, to at least have a plan. At least there should be a plan of where we want to be in a year's time, and a serious, I'm going to take one little thing out of Yom Kippur, but I'm going to take other things on during the year at various points, and maybe sit with a Rav or somebody who knows it, we trust, to see does this look like a realistic plan for 12 months' time. In learning it's very easy, especially if you're in a yeshiva and you've got a curriculum to get through, but it might be the amount of hours you sit in a base of is going to increase. The type of davening, the type of our character traits, the work we're going to do, maybe we'll pick 1 or 2 areas that we'd like to try and improve in. Halacha, various things, there's lots of areas, the way we deal with our parents and family members, etc. There can be a lot of things that we try to work on, but we only take 1 or 2 little things out of Yom Kippur, but we're going to take another one out after Sukkot, so we're going to take 1 out every Rosh Chodesh, that's, yeah. But then we're real, Hashem, we're in this to be on your side. We're not all the way there, but we're really committed to this. But with Pnei Inyan, because of this, Nagu Kol Beis Yisrael, this has become now fully accustomed in all the Jewish communities, Laharbas B'tzedakah V'Maasim Tovim, to increase the amount of charity they give, good actions they do, V'La'asok B'mitzvos, and to really work in mitzvos, Rosh Hashana ad Yom Kippurim, Yasim Echol Yom Hashana, more in this period of time than any other time of the year. But I thought you said that doesn't tilt the scale. It's not the act itself as an act itself, but it's part of trying to re-envision who I can be. Feel this is the person I want to be in the year. So I'll try and live it for a few days. And then after Yom Kippur, I'll take on one of those little bits and I'm going to try and really get there. But I'm sensitive to the fact that I'm trying to become this new person. That's what it means. And all the Jews have accustomed to get up in the night time, in these 10 days, to pray in the shuls and the synagogues, with special supplications and prayers, until daylight. That's called slichas. Okay, so we don't necessarily get up in the night nowadays, everybody, but the point is we get up earlier, we try and put in more effort. Now, when it comes to the time of weighing the corruption against the merit, for this, we don't weigh one-off actions. So if some person made a mistake once or twice, that's not going to change who the person is. You see, it's not these things that get reward or punishment. If you didn't understand what the Rambam's saying, I have to credit, I've quoted a few times this Rabbi Weinberg who gave the Shurim, and I think this comes from him too. I might be wrong. Also, some of the ideas I just said came from Rabbi Moshe Shapiro as well. So I don't remember exactly who said what. These are quite a few decades ago. But these are the ideas. But beautiful insights. You see, otherwise this Rambam doesn't make sense. He says we don't weigh the first time he did an Aveira or second time. Here he is using the word for sin, right? Chata. You've got to always be sensitive. Which word is he using? There we don't do that. Right? We don't think the first one that he does, the Lo Sheni, although here again, so I should say, Avon here is corruption. The first act or second, Elam Shlishi Veilach, it's from number 3 onwards. 1 and 2 don't get punished, they do, but they don't change who we are. It's the third one that really starts to develop it into a habit. So we mess up once or twice, okay, probably hasn't changed us. But once we get past 3 times, we're in a danger of developing a permanent habit, and not only having done some bad things, but it's now beginning to impact who we are. And that's where the corruptions from acts that are 3 onwards, if they outweigh the merits, then the first 2 come in as well, because now it's a habitual behavior. Then it all gets judged. But if the person gets outweighed and they're still in the positive despite the negative, then we throw off the scale one by one all the negatives. This sounds like this. Sounds like, look, number one, we don't put it on the scale, we leave it on the side. Number two, we leave it on the side. Number three, we put all three on the scale. But if the good outweighs the bad, then we start, take one off, take another one off, take another one off. Just say take them all off. What's he saying? It's another Gemara. But I think this is the whole point. If the zechus, if the purity outweighs the corruption, then the person is basically shining with the light of God, right? And the shining light of God can melt away the negative. The who they are in their core is actually all good. Again, the bad acts need dealing with. But if they have decisively landed on one side of the scale, meaning the question of who are you is not I'm torn, but I'm this side, just I've done some wrong, then I've done some wrong is not relevant anymore. And just like a light can shine through and melt one layer of ice, then it will melt the next, melt the next, melt the next, this person's going to be able to be on the side of the pure good. That's what's going on. Again, they'll have to deal with the actions they did. They have to do Teshuvah. They have to do vidui. They've seen all these things before. Or they have to go through punishment if they don't do that, right? That's fine. But that's not what this chapter is talking about. That's, again, once you see this, you'll see it all makes sense. If you don't see this, none of this chapter makes sense. Okay? Okay, now comes the Rambam again and adds something. Now, Hashem forgives, and again, this is in terms of this restoring of the relationship, the first ones, and even the fourth becomes the first. So now you got 20, but your goods outweighed the bad, so the first one disappears, and now you got 19, then the next first one disappears, and now you got 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, down to 1. But that's talking about the layers of relationship with God. Because in the essence of who we are connected to Hashem. That means in terms of what we're living for the relationship with Hashem. Hashem's able to forgive the act, meaning in terms of the fundamental relationship. We still got to do Teshuvah and atonement for them, but it's like if somebody knows, you really trust somebody, they really trust you, and you know at the core of their being, they are just somebody who loves you. But they messed up once or twice, they forgot to deliver something. You got it, your relationship with them is not damaged by that. If at the core of their being they're torn, then the relationship's in trouble, or it needs to be restored properly. But if you know they're really committed to you, but they're human and they've got flaws and they made a few mistakes, your relationship's not going to suffer. The individual things need to be dealt with. That's the point the Rambam's making here. So here, mechila means Hashem will forgive, meaning he'll be happy to have the relationship with anybody who's decisively, clearly living for God. Just they've done some things wrong, right? The fundamental relationship level will be there. Again, most people probably come out half-half, and then they've got to try to do Teshuvah, not because it tilts them all the way, but because that can set them up still to be written in the book of life. Teshuvah is enough of a shift to be written into the book of life. Okay, now comes the Rambam brings a bunch of psukim from Amos, where Amos near the beginning goes through nations who've done 3 sins. Right, the fourth one's too much. Fine. Habenonim, people who are not decisively one way or the other, but have come out somewhere in between. This is an amazing, scary one. If one of the acts of corruption and damage in their relationship with Hashem is they never put tefillin on in their life, then that person is looked at as by all the wrong they've done. That's a remarkable thing. Why is tefillin this gigantic one? This is one of the reasons Chabad like to put tefillin on everybody. Let's get at least every Jew to put them on once in their life, right? But this is the principle. Right, so then the person like this does get judged according to their sins, okay? But they're still not cut off from the portion of the world to come. He's soon going to go through all the people who don't have any portion of the world to come. A person who's not put on tefillin, it's very serious. It throws all their sins. So it does something, but it doesn't do enough to lose their entire portion of the world to come. But it does something quite serious. Why? Because what is tefillin, if you think about it? Tefillin is saying, I take the message of Shema, I take the message of the oneness of God, the message of loving Hashem, I attach it to my head, where all my thoughts are, I attach it between my eyes for the things I see, I attach it opposite my heart, down into my hands. It's the most powerful symbolic way we have of saying, I commit myself to you, God. If a person never one day of their life did that, never one day of their life tried to put on that physical commitment to one, men here, women are not obligated into tefillin, didn't do that, so then all their sins can be assumed to be a natural extension of them. It's not enough to lose their portion of the world to come, but it does create a problem. Okay?
So what would happen?
Yeah, you first. Yeah.
What would happen if they were to put it on them, but just not conscious? Like Chabad, they'll just put it on you.
Well, you're asleep when they're being gone. So this is an argument. If a person doesn't believe in any of this stuff, we'll see later on in the chapter. I don't know how far we're going to be able to get to, but the Rambam is basically going to go through the 12 or 30, quite a bunch of the principles of faith in this chapter. Most of them are going to be in this chapter, because most people who deny them don't have a portion in the world to come, which means they don't have a relationship with God. If you deny God exists, it's hard to have a relationship with God. So a question came up when Chabad, when the Lubavitcher Rebbe Ch.3a wanted to get people to put on tefillin. A question came up: is it meaningful if a person doesn't believe in God or Torah or anything like that? And Rav Hutner, for example, said it's not a meaningful act. You're just putting things on as an empty ritual. I think the position of Lubavitch was for two things. Number one is a metaphysical notion that deep inside every Jew really is a believer. There's at least a subconscious belief there that you can attach the act to. But perhaps even more than that, they know it's called tefillin. It's not happens to be a black box for style. They understand you're saying put on a religious artifact as part of Hashem's will. So, and they understand that it's a very important one, and so on. So I think there's enough understanding that the very act of saying, yes, okay, I'll put it on, is saying something.
It's just a low level of kavanah.
It might be a low level of kavanah. It's not a no level of kavanah. Look, for a guy to stretch out the arm in the street, or at the kotel or something, they know they want to have some connection to something. They might not consciously articulate what it is. They're willing to look a bit silly for a moment. That's not so small. There's something happening on the subconscious level. And remember, the generation when they started was a generation where most Jews had grown up in religious homes. Today, it's widespread enough that most people understand that it means something more. It symbolically means something about my connection to Judaism, right? So in that sense, you can get what's going on. So the minute they've done that, they've at least at some point in their life say, I want to be part of this covenantal nation with God. I want to have something to do with it. That's powerful. If they've never done that, then there's something deeply missing. Then it's not clear that we can really say that all the anti-Jewish behavior, if you like, anti-Torah behavior, is really not them. It's very hard to say it's not them if they've never once taken that step of tefillin. If they put the tefillin on, then there's much easier to get to that point where we can say it's not who the person is.
Is Teshuvah like contingent on tefillin?
So great point. First of all, if a person does full Teshuvah, that would be Teshuvah on tefillin too. The Rambam's picking tefillin because the Gemara discusses tefillin as a specific, as worse than the others, but the Rambam concludes it doesn't lose the person a portion of the world to come. They can still have a portion of the world to come, but it does mean that, so they've still got what to weigh, they can still have a huge amount of good. Such a person's not got no good, but it means that the Averas they've done are still definitive, are almost for sure definitive of at least who they are. So they're, amongst the things they are, is not a fully Torah observant person, right? Whereas it's different to a person who just tries to live their whole life. You know, a person generally cares about giving charity their whole life, but they once or twice messed up. That doesn't define who they are. But a person who never gives charity and never put tefillin on, so the Torah doesn't obligate them to the same degree. Now, strangely enough, how do they get portions of the world to come? Right? The Rambam's about to give us conditions that tell us that they believe in God, believe in the Torah, lots of other things. So why did this person never put on tefillin? Okay, maybe they've got something against tefillin. Who knows? They don't like submitting to God too much, whatever it is. We'll get there. But the point is that he does single out tefillin as having a very important role. And that should flip us around the other way. When we put tefillin on every morning, we should understand what we're doing. You see, often we read these negative things and we look on the negative, but there's always the flip side. When I attach tefillin to me, right, just spend just a few moments when we put them on thinking about this, I'm attaching the vision of the oneness of God and the love of Hashem and the commitment to teach that to future generations, to my brain, to my mind, to my eyes, to my heart, to my hands. And I'm saying, I want my thoughts, feelings, vision, and action to be committed to you, Hashem. That's powerful. That daily submitting and handing our life, our vision, our actions to Hashem, even if we don't live up to the rest of the day, is powerful enough that we can then say, that Hashem could say, it's very likely the sins we do just aren't who we are. Doesn't mean we don't have to do Teshuvah for them, but that's what's going on. It's who I am is not the areas I fail in. That's the power of what tefillin means. Okay. These are the ones who, sorry, I missed, let's just have a look at this. Fine. Any person who's generally ended up in the negative camp is a person like their life is committed not to God, if you like, they are also judged according to the negative they do, but they can also get a portion of the world to come. Funnily enough, there might still be enough redeeming good that after all that's dealt with, they'll make it through on the other side. Everyone who, and this phrase, all Israel has a portion of the world to come, right? It's not exclusive of non-Jews. Non-Jews can get a portion of the world to come, but the very commitment to being a part of the Jewish people, the very sense that there's a people in this world who stood at Sinai and I want to be a part of this, is already a part of history. Right? It's already a sense of that. If a person wants to completely cut off from the Jewish people, will get there soon. The collective of the Jewish nation is always believed to be living the vision, trying to live for God. And a person says, this is what I want to be. I want to be a part of this. That already gives them some portion of the world to come. Might not be a major portion, but it's something. Eretz, the land, is an analogy of Eretz Chaim, the land of life. That's the world to come. So we already get a sense the book of life is linked to this land of life, the world to come. So too the righteous non-Jews of the world, also have a portion of the world to come. Okay. So who doesn't get a portion of the world to come? You can be sinning a lot in life, the negative can outweigh the positive, and still you can have a portion of the world to come. Never put tefillin your whole life on, and still you have a portion of the world to come. So who doesn't get a portion of the world to come? They're cut off, and they're lost, and they've lost their eternity. Haminim, apikarsim. So these are basically different forms of heresy, right? Different forms of denial of God. Hakod from Torah, those who deny Torah. Hakod from Ch.3a, those who deny the resurrection of the dead. Hakod from Bevias Goyal, those who deny the Messianic era. Hamashumodim, right? Rabbim, people who let's say, who lead others astray, right? People who get to people, So Meshumad, the Rambam is going to define as somebody who publicly advocates for sinning. Not just they do their own things wrong, but they really try and make a show of how they do things wrong. Machtia Rabbim is actually people who manipulate others or get others. It can be especially true for leaders and so on, who get others to do major sins. Then he put Parshim Adarket Sibur, those who leave the ways of the community. In this particular case, in the Jewish people, we mean people who want to leave go of being Jewish altogether. And people who do sins in a very proud way, like Yoyakim and Mosrin, and those who, now Moshe was somebody who would get Jews killed by the non-Jewish authorities, right? And people who scare others, they abuse others, and they put especially fear on the community, on the nation, where it's not for some positive purpose. V'shofchei damim, murderers, baalei lashon hara. This is perhaps the most shocking of all. People who are called habitual lashon hara speakers. Right? That's in many ways the scariest. But Moshe Chalosan, the one who wants to undo their circumcision. So now I need to go through all of these to see why. And some of them more obvious than others. If you completely deny God, or you live to live a life that's anti-God, it's very hard to see how you can have a relationship with God. But then, at the same time, we've had criteria, and this creates a whole debate. Do people have a subconscious belief in God that's good enough to redeem them? Is this only, what level does it have to be? What about atheists nowadays, right? Can you be an inconsistent atheist? Like, on the one hand you say, I don't believe in meaning and purpose and God, and on the other hand, I live a life as if there's meaning and purpose and even an afterlife because I care about what the world's like for people who died and what it'll be like after I do, And the answer is possibly yes. Only Hashem can judge all of these things. But we want to strengthen ourselves in all these areas. That's what we want to try and do. So I'm not going to go through every single one of them. Very roughly, I'll just kind of, because we're a little bit out of time, and when we go tomorrow, Mi'etz Hashem, okay, what I may do tomorrow is go very quickly outside through this list, and then go into probably the fourth chapter, because these are things that are very important pre-Yom Kippur. And then we'll have to see if we carry on after Yom Kippur with the later chapters, which are, go on,
What's the line between going off the derech and leaving the community? Like the term that we say going off.
Okay, good. So when we naturally talk about going off the derech in English today, we typically mean a person who's abandoned a communal way of life that's focused around the commitment to Torah and mitzvos. The community may not be fully, but the kind of things that the community will hope for itself that it's keeping Torah and mitzvahs, and the other person says, that's not my aspiration. That's not even what I'm trying to do. But they may still want to be part of the Jewish people. I'll give you an example. Some people are not very religious, but they won't marry out. And they'll come to Shul in Yom Kippur, and they'll make sure they do Pesach on Seder night. Well, traditional Jews probably do more than that little list now, but those statements don't make sense. If a person was completely consistent, see, humans are not completely consistent. We're not. Right? You can say, I don't believe in free will, and then get angry with somebody who made a bad free will choice. Like it doesn't make sense. That's because different parts of our brain speak at once. A person can say, I want nothing to do with, I don't believe in God and Torah and Jewish people and anything. I'm never going to marry out. Why? Because you're racist? Now, God forbid I'm not racist. Why would you eliminate 99.9% of potential marriage partners? Because I can't raise a home that's not Jewish. Well, that didn't make sense. That's because there's still a part of them that's very attached. You see, they're just being inconsistent. And that's raised a very big question on all these criteria. Can a person be inconsistent? Absolutely. And that's part of what this type of weighing is. Who are you really? What are you really? And lots of people come up baying on him. I'm not really one, I'm not really the other. I'm kind of inconsistent. Right? And Teshuvah is our guideway through life for the person who's not definitively and decisively and landed on one side or the other. Hashem can write in the book of life not only those who definitively in their essence are God's servants, but even those who are torn but are committed to Teshuvah, to always improving themselves. That's really the key that comes out of this chapter. And yes, there's some of these factors, if a person would consistently live according to them, would be a real problem, would rule them out of the book of the story of life, the story of what existence is all about. They might have a very happy time while they're still in this world physically, but they're not going to play a part in the final chapter of history. But the redeeming point, which is the confusing point, is so many of us are this and this and this and this. Okay, that Hashem has to figure out. So we don't judge people, Hashem does the judging. We use this to try and aspire to greater clarity in our own self and where we can inspire others as well. That's what we're trying to do.
So this chapter showed that Teshuvah is not really on the fact that you're supposed to asking, we thought before, asking Teshuvah for your actions, but the actions aren't really what we're weighing. We're weighing who you are. So it's the actions, you going to ask for forgiveness on actions is changing who you are. And that's why.
Good. Well, it's not clear in this chapter how much. There's two things in this chapter. Chapter one thing in this chapter is the who you are, and there's almost like a very deep teshuvah on who you are. But then there's the people who don't come out definitively, which is probably most people, and their teshuvah is the next process. Teshuvah doesn't necessarily shift it in one go, although it could in some cases. I read stories like that in the Gemara where the whole thing shifts in one moment. But there's another type of thing, which is teshuvah is the process of gradual change of who we are. The difference in doing another mitzvah in the same paradigm versus doing teshuvah. Teshuvah is always chipping away at the paradigm of who we are. It may not yet be enough to tilt, the scales may shift in one giant go at one point, but it's the journey towards that. And we're going to see in later chapters, or if we get there, then we'll get there together, but if you go your head yourself, by the time you get to the 5th chapter, you'll see Rambam will say free will is so powerful. It doesn't just shape what we do, but it can shape who we become. And so Teshuvah seems to be the pathway in this journey. And that's why even if we haven't done the Rosh Hashana level of Teshuvah, of I am totally for you, God, okay, I've got a bunch of stuff I need to sort out, but Teshuvah says, but I am on the pathway of moving in that direction to getting to the point where I can say I'm for you. Rather than I've done a few more good things as the old self, I'm on the journey to this deeper self. And a life of Teshuvah, as we'll see in the later chapters of the Rambam, again, if we get there, if not, learn it yourself, is the essence of what a Jew should be striving for. And in the end, it should get us all the way to the full love of Hashem. So there's journey one is we can do it in one shot, and Rosh Hashanah is trying to awaken it within us, and even if we don't get there in Rosh Hashanah, it will awaken something beautiful in us. Teshuvah is where we can't decisively tilt the scale, but we're on the journey to the scale tilting. That's what aspiration is. That by the time we leave this world, at least, and the Rambam's going to use this phrase later on, who meis v'hu bal teshuvah, we leave this world as bal teshuvah. That's what we've got to try and get to. Yeah?
Can you reiterate again why, for example, someone like Hitler doesn't drop there?
Hitler's written the Book of Death.
Right.
The Book of Death is not necessarily their biological death. He's written the book of the villain forever. We're going to later on see people where God can actually even take away their free will from doing Teshuvah. Okay, so it could be over Rosh Hashana, it was told, right, you've been judged now to do evil things this year. Right, which means you're going to be either extinguished from history or the pain you'll experience when you suddenly waken up and see what's on the other side will undo all the evil you've done and rip you away and bring back good in its place. What exactly happens there? Again, it's God's thing of how he deals with these people. But that's called the book of death, right? The dead man walking. And yeah, that can be. You can have Rishonim who do really bad things in this world, but they still have the opportunity to shift this. They're still not called fully decisively tilted. But you can have others where they're just written in the book of death. That's,
How does free will fit into someone that's written to that is written to do?
So most people have the free will to change for next year. Whereas within the book of death, they can shift around. They won't play a positive, a major impactful role this coming year, but they can prepare themselves the next year they can. But we don't really know exactly who's written which. The Rambam has a whole different approach. He says the truth is the book of life and death is not really, but I don't think the Rambam learns that way. He says the Gemara is talking about a life, positive and negative in the judgment. There's like a book of tzadikim. Doesn't mean tzadikim means those who come out of court acquitted. You might be acquitted because the judge thinks you're so rubbish anyway, they say useless anyway, forget it. Okay, that's the Rambam's approach. He says the judgment is different. There's different approaches to this. The Rambam's approach seems to be there really is being written in the book of life and death, but it's very possible, as we already picked up a hint of, that life for Rambam is not biological life, and that will become something that becomes clearer later on in the Sefer. Okay, so you've always got the opportunity next year to get back in, have a new chapter written where you've got a new role. Rishayim can definitely do Teshuvah, and it could even be that the person wasn't written in the book of death; they were written in the book with an opportunity to do Teshuvah. We will see again if we get there in chapter 6. I think is the Rambam will talk about people who lose their free will, and then they're really in the book of death. Most people, even if they're Rishayim, are not written in a full book of death if there's an opportunity for Teshuvah, but there are people who lose the opportunity for Teshuvah.
If you lose your free will, then that's it, you're officially screwed.
Yeah, but it will be because of the person's free will choices till then. He brings the example of Paro. How could God promise Moshe that Paro is going to mess up? And he goes through that whole discussion of, but it's because of the earlier choices he'd made. We'll see if we get there. If not, you'll see it when you learn it yourself. Okay, fine. Bez Hashem tomorrow, I think, is our last time learning for Yom Kippur, so quite a lot to get through.